Hi. So I have a video that I promised that I would do, and I announced it. This is about a discussion that I had both with my book editor. I'm writing the book, Get Your Orgasmic Intimacy, and I have a lot of interesting discussions with my editor, and also with a woman coaching client that I had, with whom I recently worked on the erotic blueprints. So the question is around healing and spiritual sex. They're in a way connected, though they could very well just exist without, one without the other. But in this discussion, I'm going to make a link between them. And I also want to explain to you what, in my opinion, is spiritual sex or divine sexuality, or just like my client wanted to know. So firstly, I'm going to explain to you a bit about the coaching session in which I had this discussion, because it makes sense to understand it. So I've been working for some time now with a woman who is trying to, not just trying, but also achieving to see what is more out there possible for her in her intimate life. And she is extremely open and extremely easy to work with and very practice oriented or solution oriented, imagination and novelty oriented. So it's a beautiful place to be in when I work with her. And when I did recently, I sent her a quiz. It's not invented by me, it's invented, and the entire work is by Jaya. I'll try to link somewhere under the video. This is not her real name, this is a Tantra name. I don't know her real name. But she brought to the forefront the concept of erotic blueprints. There are 5 erotic blueprints, and once you take, sometimes you can find them out with a test, other times you can find them out, through your actual experiences, and which is your dominant and which is just less dominant, let's say. The idea is that these 5 blueprints, which are called the energetic, sensual, kinky, sexual, and shapeshifter, so everybody has a bit of all of them, but some are dominant. And the woman that I've been working with, she and her husband took the test. She came out with a dominant in her sensual, but he came out with a dominant, like an equal in dominance between energetic and sensual. She wanted to understand the energetic. She read through the test about divine, intense, otherworldly experiences and so on. So there are many notions out there in the forum about, wider concepts about the universe, the spirit, the soulful, and so on. And she wanted to understand, okay, what is that? Because I don't know what that is. She's very down to earth, very pragmatic, but she's open. So the entire discussion that I had with her, I'm going to have it with you right now as to how I explained it to her. And she said, okay, I got the picture. Firstly, if you happen to be, even if you never took the test, and if you happen to have the energetic blueprint higher or dominant in your wiring, then you're gonna intuitively know, and this is gonna, resonate a lot. This is gonna feel like coming home. For others, it might not. Don't push it aside just because it sounds weird or, another of those woo-woo things. Have the openness to listen to this one and then say, okay, maybe decide afterwards. If it's total crap, then at least you've heard the explanation before you said it. So essentially, the energetic is dominated, first of all, by their emotions, and the emotional connection is extremely important. Other people out there not familiar with the erotic blueprints or the sexological bodywork method, because, Jaya was inspired by something in our training, but other people who aren't familiar with that, they might say, oh, the demisexuals. This is another term that I've seen on the YouTube channel from Tinder. They have a YouTube channel and I checked it out. And people who need an emotional connection are actually called demisexuals there. Okay, well, in this other system, otherworldly system. We call them energetics. And if this person's emotions aren't triggered in a good way, constructive way, then they can't necessarily function sexually. Some people have this dominant blueprint dominant. Others might not have it dominant, but they might also have it in their wiring. So how it's expressed, essentially, this person will enjoy basically any type of honoring approach, attitude, or touch, words, and so on. They will enjoy anything that is ritual-like practices. Ritual-like meaning also including affirmations, sometimes prayers in a certain way. Okay, if you're into this stuff, you kind of know what I mean. Prayers to God of fertility, God of sexuality, God of I don't know what else, eros and so on. Okay, God of love, femininity, and so there are some people enjoy these practices, and they're definitely in this blueprint. At other times, there are some people who can think themselves into an orgasm. This happens. Anybody that has an energetic wiring will tell you so. Yes, it happens. Another thing that it's possible for them, this is something that I think Mantak Chia, if you're familiar with the character, he is a Chinese man who is one of the top promoters nowadays of Taoism and Taoist practices for your health and also for your sexuality. And he's the one that was said to have coined this. When he was in the same room with his wife, not necessarily being close as in physical contact with her, but just being in the same room, he could, if he focused, he could feel the same orgasmic, erotic pleasure that he would feel as if he was touching her. So this is the power of somebody who's extremely open to subtle, emotional, focusing. A lot of practices that feed the energetic go towards meditation, focusing, and breath work, and so on. And when you use those and you have the person of your sexual attraction and enticing and enjoyment and so on, then you're going to be able to actually go through such an experience. Not necessarily everybody. For others, it's just a beautiful, intense experience that is heartfelt and soulful, meaning that they put their entire being into it and they feel that they were completely present and nothing else exists. And what you will see with people who experience this kind of intimacy, sexuality, sex, is that the effects of those states, because it's not when they reach orgasm, it's not the clitoral peak, fast orgasm, and then it all goes down. These are states, they flow, they ebb and flow in pleasure, and they maintain them. First of all, people with this wiring, they can spend hours in orgasmic, ecstatic, erotic states. And they don't sit and stay with the states. They move gently with those states, and they move their sexual energy throughout their body. So they feel pleasure, not just in their genitalia, but they feel it in other parts of the bodies in different ways. Tension, pressure, pulsation, waves of pleasure, simply waves of pleasures. And sometimes the vocabulary can't really explain the stuff that you feel and taste and enjoy in those moments. But the beauty of it is that once, let's say, the actual physical, because you can definitely have energetic sex or divine sex when you're physically in contact. When the physical contact ceases, it is common for these people to experience the pleasure, keep it, even if it's a bit dimmed, but keep it for a much longer time. I shared with her something. I don't feel safe to share it here, but the idea is that the experiences sometimes can last even for an entire day afterwards. The intensity, the experiences is in the sensations that the persons feel. And this is the potential that they have also, because I said in the beginning that I've had a similar discussion with my editor when I tried to explain to her the concept of healing in sexuality and through sexuality. The beauty of these experiences is that the emotional states, when you stay for a longer time, half an hour, 3 hours, 4 hours, in these pleasurable, ecstatic, blissful states, which are also arousing, and they use arousal, you are aroused, you are turned on, you are in an erotic experience, the emotions that you have inside, they can definitely shift. So pleasure and intense pleasure has this gift that it opens up. So it opens up the body and the entire system. Your resistances, mental resistances, blockages, anything, they melt, because pleasure relaxes you, not just physically, but also psycho-emotionally. So if there's anything that you're holding inside, pain, sorrow, regret, anger, anything, with these kinds of otherworldly, let's say, for lack of a better word, experiences, you're going to see in many cases that people can let go of them. Maybe they break into tears, and a lot of women have this. When something was so beautiful, sexually speaking, a lot of women shed tears. They cry at the end. And the guys are always, what did I do wrong? It was so beautiful. Why is she crying? You didn't do anything wrong. She's purifying something that she couldn't have otherwise. I'll make an association here, which is something that I've also experienced. When you go into places, usually they're called sacred places, whether it's monasteries or these sites that are known to have they have a lot of charge around them. There were ritualistic sites throughout the times, ages, and so on, and you have the relics of them, so you can still visit those sites. Some people experience these, for lack of a better word, epiphanies, meaning they have these intense states where some people cry, and they can't explain why. And they're not sad, there's nothing negative, but they just break into tears. Because some people can also cry because things are that beautiful and that high in intensity that they will cry. I've felt that. In my country, we have some monasteries in the northeastern part of the country. And when I was in high school, I was taken, we had a high school trip with our major first teacher, sort of. And when we went to one of those monasteries, everybody was outside seeing, I don't know, God knows what statues. And I had gone inside because it was so warm. And I was alone. There was no priest, no monk, no visitor, no nothing. It was a work day and people were just doing their thing, but not in church. So I was alone, cooling off from the sun. And at a certain point, I went as close as I could to the altar. And that's when I felt some tears coming down my face. I was just a teen. I didn't know much back then. I didn't understand what it was. I kind of sensed that it wasn't negative. And I wasn't sad. There was nothing, wrong with me. Nothing that had brought me to sorrow or tear or disappointed me. Nothing. It was just there. And after a while, it stopped, and I came outside, and I felt a bit more relieved than I had felt when I walked in. So that's compared, it's comparable to that, because sometimes you have something inside and you might not be aware what it is, but you have this emotional release detention, basically, and you dropped something psycho-emotionally speaking, and then you feel better. That can also happen in intimacy, especially in those intensely emotional, intimate moments. And there is the potential to heal something if you have a wound, if you've been massively hurt. I'm not talking about heartbroken once or something like that. I'm talking about major wounds, trauma, abuse, other situations that you've witnessed that were extremely brutal or aggressive, and they've also left a mark on you. In the field, they're called secondary trauma, because it didn't happen to you, but you were a witness, and the stuff that you saw there impacted you as well. And that's a secondary trauma. So sometimes you don't make the association. You don't go into intimacy with somebody thinking, oh, I'm going to heal. It doesn't work that way. It can happen though. And I'm writing about this in my book. I also mentioned to my client, there's no way you can bring these about. Because even if somebody's wired as her husband with the energetic, and they do all the stuff that supposedly people who have a high energetic blueprint do, you still might not get to that intense, emotional, blissful, ecstatic experience. Simply because it's not in your control. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's needed, sometimes it's not. Needed as in your body, your partner's body, the interaction. Sometimes things are called for and they just happen. And sometimes it's just fun and enjoying yourself, and that's it. So, yeah, that would be in a nutshell how I described to my client the spiritual, divine, sexual encounter. And I feel that this is beauty that, at least, even if you've not lived this, I feel that it's worth looking into and being aware that this can happen. And you don't have, you're not a healer if you bring this for others. Healing and divine, spiritual, blissful experiences happen inside yourself because you are open and you keep yourself out there, or you put yourself out there for that. And your emotional field and your charge is so beautiful that it will just bring that about in intimacy. I know it sounds a bit, non-scientific, because some things are just not explained by science. Some things pertain to the heart and to the soul, and those are the places in us that will, heart, soul, emotions, deep, intense connections that will bring about these kinds of encounters and this kind of beauty. And even if my explanation wasn't so clear to maybe some of you, though I hope I did as best of a job as I could, you're definitely gonna remember something that is so beautiful and that transformed you. And it's like in your hall of, bliss. When it comes to intimacy, you have a hall of bliss, and this one is there because it was so beautiful. It was so transformative that you've remembered it. And most likely the person that you were with felt it, saw it, witnessed it, was changed, was moved by it as well. So not everybody's attracted to that. It's not a thing for everybody. So that's also true. And I certainly don't want to say that everybody should have this, because sometimes we will have it, sometimes we won't. But I just wanted to bring this awareness to you. What is spiritual, divine sex? How could it feel like? What kind of a flavor does it have? It's this one. So if you need to go back to the beginning and listen to this video one more time, the screen just lit up. And see if it doesn't resonate, then just leave it and don't worry about it. If it resonates, then I hope that you get as many beautiful moments as this one as possible. And or witness them or live them, or enjoy them as much as you can. So if you enjoy this, I also want to mention the work that I do, which is not in this surprisingly, it's not in this realm, though I have an affinity with this as well. I'm also, I have a heart, I have a soul, so I definitely relate to that. But the way I support people in intimacy is completely different. So I have a training which is very grounded, earthy, body oriented, but the connection to the spirit is that when we spend so much in our bodies and understanding the beauty and the bliss that our bodies can offer us, we become aware of the concept of embodied spirit. That's a beautiful way to look at somatic sexuality, which is what I am, a somatic sexuality coach. So my certification is in that field, and I help mainly women. Sometimes I also help men through either online programs, and I have a very complex online program. It's called Sex Dojo for Women, and it has 5 programs at the time that I'm recording this video, who look at touch, coaching overall, and feminine practices, which are very much oriented towards using breath, sound, awareness, circulating energy through our bodies, but also using our pelvic floor as to ignite more energy, expand sensations, and so on. So it's a beautiful experience. Check out the Sex Dojo. I'll put a link to my website. You're going to find it there. I also help people through individual coaching sessions. Those are just, from one of those individual coaching sessions, this video was inspired. And men, in the case of men, coaching sessions, either 1-hour coaching call just for strategy. It's a very masculine way that we look at things, but it's very resourceful. And then for those who want to work more on their sexuality, then there's also the chance or the opportunity to have one-on-one coaching online these days. But it's extremely possible to do all the stuff that I would do in person also via online. Just to clear up, coaching is just coaching, okay? Intimate contact and so on, you do that with your partners. I'm sure most of you know, but just in case somebody doesn't have the clarity for that. All right, so that's it. Otherwise, I have my channel, YouTube channel. You're watching this video here, so check out the channel and all the videos that I have there. Consider subscribing if you're not already subscribed. And you can also support it, because these videos, sometimes they are a work in and of themselves and they have costs. So if you feel that they bring you value, then by all means, you can also support. There's a PayPal button somewhere in the upper right corner of the screen where you can donate if you feel called to do so. That's it. Enjoy, and I will see you with other videos on my channel. Bye.